either team since they've just been so dominant. And just to give you an idea how dominant they were, they didn't drop a single match this stage. They only lost 3 maps overall, and that was at the very first week of regular season. And they've looked untouchable since, and they've also had fun. Like, they experimented, they showed us different looks. And I don't think any team really knows if there is an Achilles heel.
I don't see a weakness in this squad. I think that's what makes them really scary to play against. They're also a very different team with how much sim they play. They've been leading the region in that, and I think that makes them very awkward to prepare for, because yeah, you can ban sim and then it's checkmate, one of the most flexible DPS of all time, right? So like, the ban isn't really hurting him. He's not a one trick. It just it's like you're forced into this tactical misplay because you can't deal with the Symmetra. And I really do think sim is going to be dominant in this meta. I've seen a lot of it played. It just looks kind of insane to me, especially when teams really get the most of this teleporter and the playmaking potential from that. I think this is going to make this team just super challenging to prepare for. Teams have seen this, so they know what to expect, so they can come in with strats. But guys, the ultimates in that last match we saw them play, they were tilted. I was pretty honest, right? Like they were had Moira for the last fight. Like, they were super tilted, and
they threw everything, Jake. They threw everything against the wall. It was actually quite that one was tragic. Let's be real. That was against painful. VP, of course. Yeah, you casted it, so I think that's why you're reliving the pain as we're talking about it. They got beaten by VP with their own game, basically, with that double flex backline. So that was a rough one to watch, although we do have to say that overall they did win against teams we expected them to win against, right? They were 4th overall in the standing. They're like right behind the top dogs we have in the region. And we do know that the players are fantastic. Like, they can perform at the highest level.
Well, I think the problem is that, you know, we say that all the time, but they've sort of made a habit of not living up to expectations so far this year, both in Stage 1 and Stage 2. So I think that brings some justifiable doubt to this team, be able to pull it through. You know, they haven't won a single map against the top 3 in the region. You know, they lost 3
That's not true. Alcatia, they took one map.
Yeah, I think they did take one map
they were the only other team other than Twisted Minds that managed to take a map.
It's been a long time. A very long time, and it's only one map.
Just saying.
I did want to provide some hope, whichever actually.
Either way works.
Either of them. But the point is, I think they're playing the right stuff now, because it started out and they're like, oh, it's going to force Winston, you know, Twilight on the Ana, and you're just losing your mind looking at this team, just like, wow, Twilight is just one-tricking this Ana in their work. At least now, you know, against VP on Royale, for example, you know, they're putting Heesung on the Orisa. They're playing this like double flex lineup, you know, with Twilight on the Ana still, but they're playing like Juno with it, and they're like trying to make this double flex brawl comp work. We've seen teams like Twisted Minds, for example. They've had great success playing double flex support. So I think they're kind of playing the right stuff. In all essence, they just need better team synergy, because they're a little bit off sometimes, and they need to step up individually. Now, I think it's a good sign, though, that Release playing compositions that make sense for this team. Now it's just about stepping up to the plate, and maybe you won't beat Alcatia, but if you're gonna make top 3, at least you've given yourself a decent chance.
Yeah, I just don't think this is theirs to win. And if we're looking at our community predictions for this one, I would say they agree. But 16% are holding on to all the hope and hope they can find.
Kevster's been popping, right? Like, if there's one bright shining light for the Ultimate squad, it's got to be Kevster. The guy still looks as good as ever on the Genji. While maybe the other players on the team, I think, have not been playing as consistently, I have been thinking his personal performance has been really strong. But like you said, Johnny, the team play, that's going to be put to the test. Qadsiah just attacks you on all fronts. They're so solid as a unit. This is going to be a tough match.
It will indeed be an uphill battle for them in their first match here in the playoffs. And because it's the playoffs, we brought in the big guns to cover the action. Avril will be on the mic for this one, joined by, I don't know, Tiny Guns, or I guess he's a pocket knife. Not Mr. X Morello will also be calling it.
Show the guns. Show the guns.
Look, Avril, we are not tracking the desk over here, but, you know, judging by some of the laughter from Johnny and Jake, I think so. We probably said something extremely glowing about us, extremely nice coming into
targeted match slander. Hopefully, maybe not.
I mean, look, you know, if we were doing fan polls or the community polls, there's like, you know, 90% chance of me slander in there, but that's okay. You're here as well. You have an opportunity to get slandered too. But me and Avril walking you guys through EMEA here today.
Damage. I'm just getting your AoE damage, man. What is that?
Yeah, you're just getting hit in the crossfire. So just sorry, I apologize in advance. But EMEA playoffs kicking off today. Alcatia Ultimates. This one should be, I mean, it's, you know, Ultimates obviously has like pretty, you know, nice talent on the roster, but Alcatia Avril has been so good.
They look like the best team in EMEA right now. I think they're the heavy favorites to win. Twisted Mind's right behind them, but the reason why Alcatia is so good is really the symmetric play. I'm a big believer in the sim meta right now. I'm a big believer in the Orisa as well, and I think Alcatia play both of those at the highest level in EMEA. Ultimates have so much catch up to do. You see the win rates on the maps there. Obviously, they've struggled a lot this stage. Their win rate's just not going to be anywhere near as good. Map 1's going to be Oasis, Brig Ban into a cast ban. The cast ban's actually interesting because I think the cast is mostly here played to kind of have some pressure on the Orisa. I see this as like a soft Orisa counter, being Sim being the more heavy damage versus the Orisa.
Sim has been so good in EMEA, especially like at the top, right? Alcatia and Twisted Minds have used the Sim like at a really high rate, I think, compared to everybody else. And with the Ultimates, right? You know, me and you were talking a little bit before we started here, jumping in Oasis for map number 1. They've been kind of trying to move away from some of the dive they had at the beginning, and now with this Diva ban, which is interesting, right? Coming in under the Brig ban coming in from Alcatia, like that targets some of the Diva. Maybe it puts a little bit more pressure on Heesung, where Ziad, I mean, he's gonna have no trouble getting into the back line.
It's an interesting one because I think Lucio BAP to me is the default backline for now. At least looking at the Korea side, which we just had last night, 4 playoffs in the last 2 days, a lot of Lucio BAP, not that much Brig BAP. So the Brig being banned away, maybe you're right. Maybe it is targeting Ultimates, favoring a little bit more towards the Hazard. Maybe they would have wanted to play a Brig BAP kind of loadout, but they're going for the Lucio Kiriko instead. No Brig in there for the dive. Kai's going to come through on the Soldier as well, so no Freya for either team actually on this opening round.
Yeah, but you're going to have that Sim coming in from Checkmate. It's really been kind of the thing that puts Alcatia over the edge so far in EMEA, as it'll be Alcatia taking some control of this high ground, but as you see, they TP, they get right on top of the Ultimates, and it's a little bit of a rare sighting here, Avril. You have Twilight playing Lucio, which, like, we've seen him play Brig when not going to Ana, but obviously with that Brig ban, wondering, like, you're not going to really play an Ana in this type of comp, especially when Ziad is locking in that Diva, and now Twilight kind of forced onto that Lucio, but Kai does get Lambda towards the end of this, so possibility that the Ultimates can make something out of it.
It's definitely going to be a difficult one for the Ultimates playing Twilight on this Lucio. Not something we see usually, but getting Lambda down early is going to be something they can use to their advantage. This is Lambda's playground. Do you want to play a Soj 1v1? Lambda's the guy you're going to have to look out for. Heesung did die in that previous fight. He's going to swap to Winston to come back now.
Oh, this feels pretty bad, Avril, right? No, the Ultimates, like, if you're going to play the Winston, like, I mean, do you even consider playing, like, Ana here, right? Like, Kiri Lucio with Twilight on the Lucio, playing the Winston into Alcatia feels extremely difficult. Gab just kind of, goes around the corner, just gets his dome ripped off there by Lambda as, dude, Alcatia, like, they looked so good, obviously, throughout the stage. They finish undefeated, looking tremendous here thus far.
You see the instant swap over to the Winston, and Matt, you just lose faith, Matt. You've just completely lost up the Ultimates. Like, oh, it's just finished. Let's go to the next round. Let's see how much we can salvage out of this one. Qadsiah Rush is available. Man, a lot of big ultimates for Alcatia, though. It is hard to play, as you say, the sort of Winston dive without the Ana available. And also, Twilight would have to be the Ana play, so you would have to swap both Sky and Twilight to make it work.
Yeah, it's going to be an Air Matrix here. It's going to be pushed up a little bit further. Landon, that nice regen burst, able to keep everybody off. And then also, you see the Qadsiah Rush comes down, but you have this great sim wall as Ziad takes out Sky. He's going up to the high ground. He'll finish off Kai as well. As the Ultimates have not gotten anything going here. I mean, I think this is a really good ban, obviously, from Alcatia. Like, I don't think they're, like, typically you would ban the Brig, right, for your Diva to be a little bit more effective. Then you may be worried about the other team going Diva, but there's no real threat on that for the Ultimates. I mean, Lambda here pops this overclock, just trying to, see if he can pick off one before they can get to touch. Qadsiah probably would have won the one to do it. Hey, we have a sound barrier. It doesn't matter, though. It is the round going to Alcatia.
So this is the code for Ultimates right now. It's good that the Brig ban is out early, because now you're not going to get the Brig ban for Alcatia for the rest of the series. However long that ends up going for the Ultimates. Why is that important? Because the Brig ban is what then pushes the compositions into Lucio. Ultimates don't want to play Lucio. Once they get their Brig back, at least then they can play like a Twilight Sky, Brig look for Sky, Twilight goes back on the flex support. This is so awkward where Ultimates, whenever they have to play Lucio, they have to have this genuine discussion. Well, which one of us is playing Lucio? It was Sky for a while. Now we're seeing Twilight on the Lucio. Either way you cut it, not comfortable.
You just not do it.
What players?
I mean, do you just not, like, can you just not do it, right? I mean, is that an alternative? Like,
you could, but then, because you're right, because this is not looking pretty, but then what are you going to do? You're going to do double flex support on a control map where you're just going to get rushed down, you don't have the speed, the other team has the speed. And
like, could you play, like,
really
I mean, look, it's not,
Juno.
I was going to say, could you play, like, a Juno with, like, an Orisa, something that's a little bit more brawly? Like, that would be kind of the alternative, right? But, like, we've seen that the Sim plus the Diva comps have played really well into that, especially not being able to protect the backline. And you see Heesung getting dangerously low, and Checkmate so charged up on the Sim. Nice TP there, gets Ziad into the backline. I mean, just a bloodbath.
I think the tough thing is, usually you would prefer to see the hazard here, but for Heesung, he's thinking, if I play the hazard, I'm going to get beamed out while I'm blocking up against the Symmetra. Maybe with the Winston, at least playing the bubble, he's got a little bit more to play through, and not just eating these beam level 3s from Checkmate the entire way through. So you sort of see the understanding, but none of this has worked for them. Heesung constantly chucked down. He's always low. He's low again. Twilight might even fall here. He probably will. They're getting spawn camped, Nat.
But, okay, so I get not playing the hazard because you can, you know, farm up the Sim on it. But the Diva is really good in the one-on-one against that Winston. And then it also gives another target for Checkmate to just charge up the Sim beam, right? You see, like, they're just using the Sim beam onto the Winston bubble, just kind of charging it up, getting really high in terms of damage output. Now you have high ground here for Landon with an Amp Matrix. This point as well just can be, you know, stalled out for so long. Ultimates need to get something going here really quick if they want a chance.
Got rush. They got to rush. They need some position to use it on. Note they're going to rush the ground, but most Alcatia on the high ground. Lambda, the shot of the sky have showed away.
Oh, man, this is a tough one to watch here at the start of EMEA, Avril, at least in map number 1, because, you know, the Ultimates, right? They come in with a little bit of a new look here into stage 2. We expect them to be a bit better. I think at times they have been better, I know, just overall. But I think EMEA as a whole has gotten, like, way better, right? Like, you know, VP was tremendous in stage 1. They get kind of knocked down a peg as, you know, Alcatia and Twisted Minds really, like, rise up, start to play better. We even had, you know, one dip come in from relegation, play well. I mean, that is just...
He said, I'm sorry, I had to cut you off there because you let brother die.
Oh, I mean, did you expect to have him keep him alive? I mean, I just kind of wrote that off completely. That was not going to happen. As Ziad will get a mech back here. Just a little 1v1 with Kepster and landed on the point. Kellex still has this sound barrier. I mean, no threat to use it or have to use it whatsoever. Checkmate doesn't get the benefits of it, gets blocked by the Winston bubble there by Heesung. He's going to use that primal on the point, but the backline just getting destroyed here by Ziad. It's just a matter of time here for Alcatia to put away this first map.
They got a kill. The first signs of life for our Ultimates here. Heesung off the Landon, but I don't think we're going to get much else here. Double support's dead for Ultimates. Landon's gone, but Kellex is still alive. Ziad clinging onto life, but they have the 99%. This could actually be a flip. Kai's going to ult for this one. They could actually flip this one. They still have OC to maybe carry it through, but Kai's got to do it.
They do end up losing Heesung though, right? I mean, you lose the odd as well, so we'll see. The Ultimates get 3 players here on the point. They just need to kind of keep Checkmate alive on the other side. You see the Immortality field used there to kind of keep Checkmate up. If you can get him, yeah, look at that TP. Nice right click there from Checkmate. Landon with the Amp Matrix, and that puts it away. So Ultimates makes it a little bit interesting there towards the end. But Alcatia, just a dominant map 1 performance.
He had a decent amount of damage done by Kai though at the end. He actually lands on 6,000 to Labda's 5,700. So it's not like the DPSs between Kevster and Kai aren't pulling their weight. They're able to have some real impact into this game. The problem here is overall as a composition, start with the supports again. Sky, Twilight, whenever they're forced to play Lucio is gonna be a problem. So again, I'll reiterate the code for Ultimates. They at least are not going to have to face the Brig ban again. From this point onwards, they don't have to play Lucio. I think it's still preferable. In my belief, having just seen Korea as well, Lucio back to me is the current standard for the backline. That's the current default, unless something gets banned. It is also a little bit map dependent. You can do some stuff on different maps, or maybe you want to do the Life Weaver BAP comp for Royale, whatever. But right here, at least with Brig being available again, they can lean into that. What we don't want to see again, Matt, today is more of that Moira stuff. So as long as we move for the ultimates and they stick to things that are a little bit more tried and true, we'll be okay.
I love production where the only highlight from round one was Kai coming in with the overclock in like the final seconds and getting one and then just losing the point. Just that kind of tells you where things went here for the Ultimates as AM Matrix used there towards the end. So Ultimates will end up getting a map pick, Avril. I think this obviously is extremely beneficial for them. A few really good dive maps potentially in the field. Like we haven't seen a lot of it in EMEA, but like could you go Gibraltar? Could you do something along those lines, right? Could you go Gibraltar and, for instance, get rid of the Diva, right? You know that Heesung wants to play maybe some Winston, things along those lines. So the EMEA staple here, Avril, is typically Runasapi and either New Junk City, typically New Junk City to play some brawls. So that's typically, you know, our recommended map pool here for EMEA. But I like this.
It might be Circuit.
Teams maybe go outside of that. Circuit's not a bad option either.
Because Ultimates have done that twice in a row. Ultimates, the two last times they've had first map choice after losing, they go straight to Circuit for some reason. Now,
they tried Hollywood in the past and it was not good.
If they can force a hazard mirror, I think that's a pathway to victory. You have to start really combing your way through what different threads that you can lean on for TU to find map wins, to find compositional matchup wins, right? What can they lean into, you know? So Hollywood is maybe not the worst. It's just like you still have A and C that are very brawl favored. You don't have really nice dive maps here outside of like Watchpoint Gibraltar, as you say, or maybe Dorado on the A and B, but even the reworks in Dorado, that's like not as required anymore. So really, I think for TU, no matter which way you cut it, you will not have a chance to win the series. I mean, the chance to win the series is very low as it is, but you will not have any chance to win the series if you don't win the brawl mirror at some point. So yeah,
they heard me. Gibraltar, ban Diva, ban Diva. See how it goes, right? Because if you ban the Diva here on Gibraltar, you can play Heesung on Winston, and then you can also put Twilight on Ana, and it's not a complete detriment to the rest of the team, right?
Ana could be banned.
So I mean, yeah, they could ban on the other side, right? Yeah. But it still feels like there's a little bit more of an advantage to be had there for the Ultimates. I also asked Zoe how she introduced us, but she said that we brought in the big guns of Avril, and he's joined by a tiny gun or a pocket knife. So we were pretty accurate where it was going to be some slander directed towards me, some, you know, maybe you get caught in the crossfire. So we were, 90% of the way there. It's, I let it slide, Avril. I let it slide. You know, everybody needs some source of entertainment, and if I have to be the entertainment, so be it. You know.
I find you entertaining, Matt.
I find me entertaining. Well. I mean, yeah. I guess that's important.
Well,
I heard a bell ring. Maybe production. That somebody there agrees as well. So Ultimates
production, start a poll in chat to see who. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Start a poll between me and Jake. Yeah, let's see how far how
this guy just
how much I can lose.
Why'd you
yeah. Because Jake gets 99% of all the community polls. They vote for him.
Okay.
I mean, Jake said, "Now don't vote for me," and they would. So the Ultimates, it kind of goes exactly how we just talked about. So the Ultimates, they can get rid of Diva. Alcatia gets rid of the Ana on the other side. Yeah. So obviously losing the Ana is a hit to the Ultimates, but I still find this to be a more winnable scenario for them.
So I have some history to look back on, all the way back in week 1, because I was going to say, when was the last time we even saw either of these teams play Circle Royale? And for Ultimates especially, because they're picking this map, they last played this, Ultimates that is, in week 1 versus Alcatia, actually. And they actually won this map. It was a full hold versus Alcatia. Yeah. However, difference being, it was Ultimate's first ban. They banned Lucio to protect their brig. And then Alcatia responded with the Winston ban, which is quite smart. And so they ended up playing a Diva mirror, which Heesung won. This time around, they get rid of the Diva, but they lose the Ana. So they're going to have to go through on, I would have assumed the normal comp is obviously Lucio Kiriko, but because Ultimates can't play Lucio, they're going to have to play Brig Kiriko.
I like this from Alcatia on the defensive side of things. We can talk about that first. They're going to keep in the sim. I think Checkmate has been so good on the sim throughout really this entire stage. It's been one of the main difference makers. Me and Jake over the last few weeks have been talking about the teams that play sim versus not in the EMEA and kind of the difference. Lambda will end up playing the Cassidy, and they'll have Hazard. So with Brig in the game, it also helps the ultimates being able to kind of defend against Ziyad, potentially playing that Diva, right? So you have them play Hazard instead. Twilight feels much more comfortable. I know at least over the last few weeks we've been seeing playing the Brig as opposed to trying to play the Lucio. So overall, I think this is a much better, you know, if you lose here, if you're the ultimates, it's pretty difficult to find a pathway to victory that's better than this.
Well, you're certainly not going to find better dive maps than this one. You're certainly not going to get a better map ban for the Diva for this specific setup here as well. But he gone to a little bit of flanking angle. He is on the cast to start with, which you might think the range isn't quite good, but because he's receiving the dive, you can punish Heesung. He wasn't one to kill Heesung, but Heesung is down on this first attack.
They just be able to a nice job targeting, you know, Heesung as Ziyad cleans up 3, checkmate with 1. They're gonna get the kill on the guy as he gets back into the spawn. Is you know, look, I'm sure you've watched. I mean, you watch every region. I don't know how you do it or sleep, but for me, like, Ziyad has been, you know, if there was like an MVP of EMEA here for Stage 2, it would be Ziyad. And interesting here. So they're gonna play the Alari Kiri, which is like not a typical comp you see. Like with the Alari, you usually see like a BAF or something along those lines. This is an odd look at.
Yeah, it's hard to have Twilight have much impact onto Heesung. Like, you really have Sky as the only real healing, and that's slow as well. You don't have the Brig packs in here. You don't have the Ana because it's banned away. Heesung's got to struggle more in this matchup with Twilight going over towards the Alari. I think defensively that might have made more sense, but it's just a strange pick. They got to focus on getting payload movement. At least that's a messed up sim TP from Checkmate, unfortunately. Rare mistake. You just see he just put it 1 meter in front of himself. That's okay.
You're gonna have the sim wall here though in just a second. Okay, so they do get a kill onto land, and that's massive. But nice shots from Lambda, taking Kai out of the sky as the payload is moving. Get a little bit of progress here underneath the tunnel. But already, dude, we're already below 2 minutes. I mean, this clock is dwindling quite fast. Not a lot of payload progress. We haven't even seen really a fight where like a lot of ultimates are thrown in the mix. Ooh, I think he actually really wanted that kill there. Gets the first ding, not able to finish off Twilight, but you know, this next fight or two is going to be crucial, right? You know, 1:40 on the clock. If you're the ultimates, you invest 2 or 3 ultimates into these fights, you end up losing. I mean, you're going to get full health.
They're not getting any picks. I mean, it's just so hard for them to challenge the high ground here. This is why Freya on the attack is really good and Kai's not playing it. Tuna Rush coming on through. Twilight actually going to kill the Calyx. This is really good. That sound barrier gone. Now if you can just play through the sim wall, it's actually kind of winnable. Window from Landon as well. Doesn't have the best angle to see the rest of the ultimate squad, so they can sort of just out-rotate that a little bit.
Oh, nice beat, though. That's actually going to keep Checkmate alive. He actually got hit with the Captive Sun. Twilight goes in for the kill and not able to finish it off. And that's a huge sound barrier there from Calyx. It keeps Checkmate alive, and Checkmate is crucial in the fight. Finishes off, too. And this is what I was worried about after what I was talking about before. Checkmate was basically all 5 in the fight. This is what I was worried about before. I was talking about the ultimates. You come in, you use all your ultimates in this fight. But you know, you're now looking at potentially getting full health, right? You're below a minute on the clock. You're close to nothing. Yeah. What do you think here?
Alcatia don't have ults either, though. So both the teams spend everything. I think you'd be correct if Alcatia held on to ultimate. But remember, Calyx lost his life super early. Forced 5 versus 4. That puts the pressure on.
In the neutral, though, I feel like this comp from Alcatia has so much extra survivability. They've done a nice job of just making Heesung's life very difficult. You're going to get a Deadeye now, right? Landon not out of the world of possibilities. Potentially get an Amp Matrix here, so we'll see if they're able to pull it off. TP up on the high ground.
You need to watch out for, because you need the Qadsiah rush for this fight. Thailand's not going to do too much here. They have at least high ground, a little bit of control now. Alcatia's forced off the high ground. At this point, ultimates. This is an opportunity. This is the best position they've had for a while.
Ooh! Bit tricky here with that Deadeye. Oh, he's gonna get Sky! Oh, and gets Twilight. Both supports just caught out there in the tunnel. The TP up to the high ground there from Checkmate, giving it to Lambda during the Deadeye. Drops down. I guess Sky may have actually, he was inside of server room and used a TP back out to Twilight, so he probably didn't have a TP to get away on. Probably no Suzu there to keep each other up. So really sick play there from Alcatia. I mean, dude, that is not a lot of progress on the payload at all. I mean, you don't even really get around that first corner.
And pay attention to the fact that, you know, again, Kai is doing plenty of damage here, but they're not converting to enough kills outside of Twilight getting that one shot onto Calyx a little bit early. You never really saw the ultimates have that opportunity to find a one-player advantage. This is why I still prefer, if you're going to be on the attacking side here on Gibraltar, start on the Freya instead. Your kill potential, getting a double bolt, is just going to be higher than trying to find this one-shot through a headshot on a fully charged rail, which isn't quite going to be enough unless somebody else tags in damage as well. So you did eventually see the ultimates push on, get the payload towards the end, take a little bit of the high ground control, but then just a hero play coming out from Lambda. TP'd across, by the way. That was set up by Check.
Yeah.
The TP really threw ultimates off because they're thinking, okay, we know where Lambda is. The Deadeye's over there. We're going to position like this. TP repositions Lambda, and they're not ready for it. And then he gets the most important members. Sky needed to live to get that Kitsune rush off. The ultimates,
I mean, dude,
even though they beat Alcatia last time on this map in week 1, they had the Brig Honor, and I think, again, the backline troubles is what is causing issues right now.
And not even just get Sky, right? Just Twilight standing there in the tunnel as well, right? You end up getting both. As the ultimates, they make some changes. So Twilight back to the Brig. I think they probably, the Alaria, I really didn't think was that impactful, on offense, where probably could have stayed with it.
I think it's good at all.
Yeah, stayed with the Brig. It's you already see the progress though that Alcatia is getting here, Apple. You're basically gonna have like
Heesung needs to contest.
what? I mean, no. I mean, there's no shot of keeping him alive in that situation, right? I mean,
the problem is you need Kevster and Heesung to contest payload to stop it from just free rolling through. I think they're about to cap.
But typically, right?
They're about to cap. This is over.
Yeah,
they're capping.
This is pretty ugly. I mean, typically in that type of situation, as we see the payload go on through, if you're playing like Winston Tracer, right? Like the Winston is on one side, the Tracer's on the other, right? Like on the opposite side of the tunnel, like so you can kind of like juggle payload contest. That time it was like Kev was on top of the bridge trying to put some damage down. Heesung just jumped down, dies, and then there's no way for them to kind of make it back. I mean, dude, this is a lightning fast 2 maps.
How does he get melted? Like, what happened to the bubble? Did he just like exploded?
It's happened on every map, right? Whether it's like the extra damage with like the BAP and the hazard and the sim, but they have not been able to keep him alive on the Winston or even close to keeping him alive.
Look at what happens the other way around. Alcatia, 8-point defense. It's Zia popping down, up and down from high ground to payload, stopping the movement. You're not letting the ultimates get free push at any stage, right? Every now and then you're going to get checkmate, or checkmate was actually on a sim, so a little bit different, but you'll get Kevster on the Tracer. His job is also to kind of stall up payload, play bottom a little bit, help out Heesung, ping pong a little bit with Heesung, so they're swapping positions and somebody's keeping track of the payload. Here, ultimates, they're like, oh, we forgot about the payload. It's about to get away from us. Oh, quick, Heesung, go touch or something. He goes and touches, dies. What? And then it's over.
Man, I was laughing. Somebody in chat was actually assuming that because of our lighting, we're in the same room. Avril and I are not in the same room. We are actually on opposite sides of the planet. Like literally, is far away.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, your hand is like would be inside me at this point. So yeah, there we go.
Okay.
We did it.
Nice. In the same room.
I mean, does it even? What do you do if you're the ultimates here? Because I felt like that was like their best option in terms of...
This is what you're meant to do. This map with this bad...
That would have been the best... Yeah, that would have been the best path, right?
It doesn't get better than this. There's nothing better than this. There's not a better dive map and not a better map to ban the Diva on that map too.
Well, I mean, we didn't even kind of get into that, right? Because now you've burnt your Diva ban, right? So the Diva ban gone here for the ultimates. Map 1, I believe it was Cassidy from them, so they've used the Cassidy ban, they've used the Diva ban. Suravasa, okay, so you can play some type of dive in Suravasa. I believe recently we actually saw them trying and play some Sombra here on this map. I believe it may have been like a week or two ago we saw them try and go towards a Sombra comp. It was a game that Jake and I casted, and it was not super effective. I think they actually may have pulled it out in the end, but it didn't look easy. So I'm curious what they decide to do in terms of bans here. I would even question Avril, like, is there a world in which, I mean, do you ban Lucio, right? Do you try and like force Kellex off of Lucio and like play like, Bap Rig on both sides, which seems to be kind of what a lot of people go to here. But then it opens up like, I mean, what? Alcatia could ban Winston, they could ban Tracer, they could do, I mean, there's a lot of different options for Alcatia here.
Yeah, I think this is more of a Orisa map anyway. So you can ban the Lucio to force it to be a brig BAP at least, so you can have parity on that backline. Because I do think the Lucio BAP version, to me at least, seems like more the default based on how often it's getting played over the brig BAP currently between all the regions and all the teams. Beyond that, it's like, what else can you really target here? You could target the Orisa and force it into like a non-Orisa matchup, and you'd look towards a Ram, you'd look towards a Hazard instead. So if Ultimates really want to go Hazard, they might do that. Symmetra ban actually would be pretty decent as well, because Checkmate's a problem, and you don't want to deal with Symmetra-based strategies. If you're not running it and you don't know how to fight against it, you probably don't want to face Symmetra. So Sim actually might be a pretty high priority ban as well.
And I mean, here's a wild one. Alcatia, their last map loss in EMEA, was it on May 10th? I mean, think about that. That is, I mean, you're running the gauntlet here through EMEA. I know the first week they actually lose all 3 of their maps that they end up losing in the stage. And, you know, they lose obviously 1 to the Ultimates during that. So the Sim ban does come through. So Sim is, you know, the superpower here of Alcatia. Twisted Minds has used it, you know, with Yubi and Psycho switching off as well. But it's not like you get rid of Sim and Checkmate becomes unplayable, right? He's tremendous on things like Tracer. And then Alcatia gets rid of the Alari, which, like,
it's a Twilight target.
Yeah, but, like, do you think he was going to, I mean, play it? I mean...
So they played last time. So TU played this BAP Alari against Virtus.pro just last week, actually. And that failed for them, and that's when they went the whole Moira thing. So
right. Yeah,
so it didn't work out versus VP, and then they went Moira. So I'm not a big believer of...
Maybe we'll get a Moira play here. After
the first point, like after you get past market, I think the Alari potential drops off massively. So it's just, at this point, if you are on Alcatia, any ban kind of works for you. So you might as well do a target ban towards like niche strategies that only teams like the Ultimates would want to do, which is play like a BAP Alari on this map, and then force into something that's going to be more standard, and then you just know how to deal with that very standard gameplay. My question is, what is Checkmate actually going to play? Tracer probably is going to be the best look at.
He could play Sombra as well. We've seen him play in the past, right? But I mean, Checkmate is so good. Like, you know, he's been on Sim for most of the stage, right? But just an overall tremendous player. So he'll play Tracer here. Kepster, so you'll actually play Kepster on the Genji. So there's a lot of high ground here on Suravasa that the Genji is a little bit more effective. And we're going to see the Twilight Lucio again.
It's an interesting one. They have Brig available. They've BAP available. I don't know why they don't just play...
Well, the Brig, especially against when Ziad is most likely going to play D.Va, right? Like, I mean, are you scared that he's going to play Orisa? Well, but even still...
Even in the Orisa, it's not the worst. I think you
have the Brig is still fine.
And you also have Checkmate that you know most likely is on the Tracer here, who is under a little bit of pressure looking for that flanking angle.
Yeah, I think just some weird support decisions. Qadsiah actually takes some damage there from Checkmate, but a nice job of finishing him off. So they'll get a lead in terms of the head count here on the objective. Xeon still trying to put some pressure here. And they'll actually, the point going over to Alcatia first is Labda connects with a mag grenade, but it's going to be Kepster getting out of dodge here. So, dude, he is taking shots from all angles as Checkmate trying to go in, finish him off. He's something with 2 big kills, though, in the feed. That's probably going to be enough to flip it.
Yeah, Sky getting Kellex down here as well. The flip actually comes on through Ultimates. Looking pretty decent here. And the irony is, like, I don't think it's a bad support composition. Lucio Kiriko is exactly a good composition. The problem is, it's Twilight on Lucio. I think that's the major issue here. Kai's finding some shots, though. I was maybe starting to doubt a little bit, like, okay, maybe we should look towards Freya more. Definitely on Gibraltar, but even in general, most teams would probably still look towards Freya, at least I'm more referring to Korea side.
Yeah, Freya's fallen off.
Freya.
Freya's
single Freya so far.
Yeah, no, she's fallen off in EMEA over the last few weeks. It's really been trending more towards Cassidy, really, and Soj, where the Freya comes in.
Proud on T1 would say different.
On occasion. You know, well, EMEA being the superior region, I think you know they have some things to learn over there in Korea. Oh, the Ant Matrix there. As Heesung and Co, they try and follow up that Kitsune rush, and they walk right into the Ant Matrix, but it's going to be the Ultimates coming out on top here, so they're getting off to a much better start here, Avril. Playing around this hazard with the Genji.
I think a lot of this is also coming down to the fact that they're removing the sim setups and the sim approaches. It's far easier and more standard for an Ultimates team to just face up against, you know, similar to the argument I made for Alcatia, banning the Alari means you just get to play against a normal comp. Well, banning the sim for Ultimates means you get to play against a normal comp. You don't have to deal with sim TP strats. It also means that, like, regardless of whether Ziyad plays the D.Va or the Orisa, those, you know, tank TP strats are just not going to be there where suddenly Ziyad appears behind you with the D.Va, just blows somebody up.
That's much more costly to get Ziyad into the back line. It'll be the Deadeye here for Labda. He finds Sky as it's going to be the sound barrier for both sides. The blade pull from Qadsiah, the downpour here from Heesung. Looks like connects with at least two here. Trying to follow it up is him and Kai. As I know a lot of ultimates used here from TU, but they had a huge advantage coming into the fight. So now they just kind of double back to the point. The point is open, but Checkmate finds two. Heesung was quite low on the exit, and same with Kai. And even after that huge investment from TU, it's going to be Alcatia coming out on top.
And Checkmate just picking up the pieces over towards the end. Last couple of stragglers, and Alcatia gonna get the opening cap. Now this is the best that Ultimates have done so far in this series. They've at least got 1 point. Now here's some a little bit of hopium this time for the Ultimates. They haven't scored a single point up until this point, but that going for them. And Kai has been pretty sharp so far. OC online could be a real threat.
No overclock as well. No sound barrier on the other side as well, right? You know, for this overclock. So Kai and potential, right? I know you just don't want to kind of fire those into Ziyad. Maybe you can actually kind of get somebody here in that back line. As Kyle popped the OC, it's going to be the immortality field used by Landon, but you see the health bars on Alcatia getting dangerously low. Landon able to heal them up, though, through that air matrix.
Ziyad loses mech for this. Very risky play from Ziyad. He's going to have to go for the remake very soon if you can even make it in. Kai, seeing that there's no D.Va Matrix, will find Calyx, but they're not getting too much more. Qadsiah and Heesung. 2 versus 3 now. Sky on 1 HP. I don't know if he can live through this. He has a rush. Doesn't want to have to use it if he can. And save that one for a future fight.
And there's nobody here to deal with Checkmate. I mean, Checkmate has just been such a nuisance, right? He kind of like ended up getting them the advantage in this fight. Ziyad actually makes it all the way back because Checkmate, you know, was able to take out Heesung and Kai at the beginning of this. Is still nobody here checking him as he's in the back line. This is going to be the Kitsune rush here used by Sky. It'll be a Deadeye here from Labda, just trying to prevent everybody from walking on through it. But they're going to invest the sound barrier here as well. So double support ults invested by TU is that you're going to win this fight most certainly.
Yeah, I mean, they really had to double support all that given the initial Kitsune rushes. Didn't feel like it was enough sound barrier to seal the deal, but you have to now flip it 0 to 99 from that Alcatia. Got so much distance. This is at least Ultimate showing genuine signs of life, and I don't know about that Ziyad play, man. He dived in so deep, got himself demegged, and that gives the opening to Kai to finally get a shot in without a Matrix being in the way.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up having the remake there, Ziyad. He had the self-destruct, but yeah, I mean, it does create a little bit of a window of opportunity. I'm more worried about the Ultimate stacking support ults during that fight, because now you come in here towards the end, right? Checkmate's going to get closer towards that pulse bomb. You're going to have an Ant Matrix. It's going to be a downpour here used. Looks like the immortality field just keeping players alive as Kai ends up falling. Not going to pop the blade here for Kev because you just lose everybody. And Avril, you know what's so terrible about this? You lose everybody here. You're going to give up the point. And look at Alcatia. You're going to have all 5 ultimates going into this next fight. A perfect opportunity to snowball.
If you ever wanted an example of where the disconnect in the team play there is for ultimates, watch the fact that we're in Kev's POV. He's on minimal HP, can't go in, can't follow up, and then Heesung decides to downpour off the point where no one can follow that up. He can't even follow that. Heesung couldn't even go in and catch the play that he actually hit with the downpour. Kev's is definitely not going in. He has no HP. That is prime TU disconnect in play.
Sound barrier here just used as luxury here for Alcatia. They end up using the immortality field a little bit early, and TU wants to take an early fight. I actually think the early fight from TU is the right play here. Try and get an ultimate or 2 out. They only get that sound barrier out, and it'll be Alcatia getting control of the point first. I think this next fight, though, Avril, for the TU is so important, right? Not allowing, the Alcatia squad to, bank some of these ultimates, get a cheap pick at the beginning of these fights. They need to make it costly. It's going to be Qadsiah with the blade. Deadeye popped your Ant Matrix here as well. Everything kind of thrown in. Kev trades out with Labda, but you're going to be down to 3 players here for TU. No supports alive, so you're going to lose Heesung. Qadsiah and Kai make their way back to the point, but Alcatia, 4 players alive. They're going to circle back to the point, finish these players off, and regain control.
It's a bloody fight, but Ultimates in these low membership sort of scenarios, they just can't get the cleanup, and the opposite is happening here. Qadsiah late death as well. Time is running out. You're nearly at one fight territory. Now, by the time Qadsiah respawns, you're going to be 80% plus for Alcatia, which is one fight territory. OC Qadsiah Rush, the big tools here, but Ziad can really shut this one down if you can just stay alive, put the Matrix in Kai's face. We've seen before, sometimes that one rush isn't enough.
It's going to be the Kitsune rush here. Ziad's going to use a self-destruct just to get back in the mech. He takes a lot of damage at the front of this, and they lose Twilight here. You're always, it seems like, down supports for the Ultimates as Kai, look at the amount of pressure Ziad putting on him. Yeah, you'd love to have a brig there, right? As Ziad just goes in, cleans up Kai, cleans up Sky as well, doubles back to the point. Heesung here, but just feels like the beginning of the end here for the Ultimates on this point. As I know, nice protection with the defense matrix. You see Qadsiah trying to put a play onto Landon, but Ziad there with that defense matrix. Landon has the immortality field as Alcatia just 1 point away from a 3-0 sweep.
I mean, the thing there is you had an opportunity. Ziad again gets DMEC super early. That's where Kai needs to shine. Pop the OC, find an opening where Matrix is not going to be there and there's no Diva in your face. Trying to remember what the situation there for Ultimates was, and if Kai was clear or not. You'd have to imagine he was, because Ultimates had cleared out the small room where the self-destruct was happening. Surely with no tank on board for Alcatia, Ultimates have an opportunity to pop OC in Blind Valley, but he doesn't pop OC until Ziad gets back in mech, and then Ziad just chases him down.
And I think they're trying to bait them down here. Kellex gets quite low, but they're trying to bait them down into this Amp Matrix. You see Ziad gets quite low. They're going to use that Amp Matrix, going to keep him alive. You have the sound barrier if necessary, but look at this Avril yet again. Where is the rest of TU? Nobody around to try and keep him alive. And now everybody else crumbles after that. It looked like for the Ultimates, players backed up and Heesung was in. I mean, there was no way they were going to keep him up yet again.
You have to respect the window coming through from Landon. Yeah, they really want that kill to Ziad, but once window comes through and the double healing gets hit onto Ziad and they know the damage just isn't going to be there, back out. Or I spend Ultimates, I guess, and try and rush in and counter that window. But if you're not in a position to do that, you cannot disrespect the window and just stay and get shot down by Lambda.
It's going to be a beat here from Twilight, opening things up. It's going to be Qadsiah ending up using this blade, but a nice job from Qadsiah. He saves that deflect, just runs it right into Lambda. Now, as he has that Deadeye rolling, it's going to be the sound barrier wearing off here for Alcatia. They use it a little bit later, but Kai comes up with Kellex. Oh, okay though, but Checkmate answers with a pulse bomb, so potentially still going. Ziad still a man on a mission here. Takes out Twilight. Might end up being enough. Sky is going to fall there with that Kitsune rush. It's going to be the immortality field coming in here at range. I mean, that is absurd that Alcatia is able to win in that type of situation. You see Kai just working his way towards the point, not able to touch it. And Avril, that is a blowout. Alcatia takes care of business against the Ultimates.
And you want to see what clutch versus anti-clutch looks like, replay that last fight over and over again. Because you have Checkmate and Ziad, 2 members alive, by the way. It's the last 2 members of Alcatia versus, I think, maybe 3 from Ultimates, something like that. And between Checkmate and Ziad, might have even been 4, they actually win that fight, just the 2 of them. And Ziad even gets a baby diva kill.
And it feels insane, Avril, to watch this and how impactful Ziad was, especially getting kills onto Sky and getting them on the Twilight. And you have Twilight on Lucio, where I mean, you could have played the brig there, right? Like, you could have at least tried to. No, obviously you don't have the speed. I think that's probably the argument, is that the speed is so important on Flashpoint, because you need to obviously get back to the objectives. But I mean, if it's great to have speed, but if nobody's alive in terms of your supports, it doesn't really matter.
I even move away a little bit. I think the composition is what it is now. Like, they're playing on paper. If you just show me the heroes and not the players, I'm like, that's a good comp. The problem is they have flex supports on a main support that they're not tested on. Beyond that as well, just a disconnected play. Too many disconnected plays. I gave the examples already, and Ultimates, it'll cost them. They go to lower bracket now.
Man, a dominant performance here from Alcatia in our first game in the EMEA playoffs of the day. Let's head back to the desk. I don't know what kind of thoughts they're going to have, because there's not many to have outside of Alcatia dominating.
Yeah, what can we say? Head empty. That was a quick one. Look, here's the thing. First one, I was like, okay, you know, rough start. Obviously, we expected the Ultimates to be the underdog in this one. They did take them to Gibraltar, the one map that should arguably give them the best chances of actually defeating them. Also, the one map they actually won against them in week 1, so that's 5 weeks ago. However, it felt like Alcatia tried to make a statement here. I don't think I've seen such a dominant beatdown on Gibraltar in a hot minute. So, yeah.
So rough start, rough middle, rough end. Right? Like, it was not pretty there for the Ultimates. They just got absolutely worked. And I mean, that looks like an unwinnable matchup for them. Like, it just feels like you could play that match 1,000 times and it would be 1,000-0 for Alcatia. It wasn't close, wasn't competitive. For the Ultimates, this is maybe not the series you needed to win. It's one that maybe you never were going to win with how strong Alcatia have been. But also for the Ultimates, I mean, a couple really weak showings back to back. It's going to be very challenging for this team to be like mentally prepared, because VP and TM, you've got to beat one of those teams now, right? Like, that's the only road to Riyadh, to qualifying for Esports World Cup. And those are two teams different than Alcatia, not, you know, quite as terrifying with the way they play the Symmetra, but I mean, the Ultimates, it's really hard to see them qualifying the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think when we talk about the top 3 in EMEA, I think we think all those 3 teams are on par with Alcatia. So it's not going to get any easier against VP and Twisted Minds. You could argue if you have a favorite among those 3. But I think in general, all those 3 teams are exceptionally good. And if the Ultimates look like this against Alcatia, they have a lot of improvement. You know, they need to improve it very quickly if they're going to be able to take down one of those teams. I think it was quite notable that they just kind of flipped everything they did last week. They were just like, well, we're going to put Twilight on Lucio here on Suravasa. We're going to pick Gibraltar and not Circuit Royale. And we're instead going to gamble on this completely different look of them. And Gibraltar, look, they had one real good opportunity on attack where they have 5 ults, but Hisang went to Primal in spawn, Kai popped the Overclock 3v5. They kind of just like dropped the spaghetti on the one chance they did have with that composition, and so there's no redeeming it. Like Jake said, it just looked rough throughout.
I will say, just in their defense, just a small thing is that, like, look, playing against the sim stuff is really hard. Like the sim wall, like that particular fight, right? Like, you primal into the back line, and then the sim wall separates everyone else. No one can come in and support the primal. And yeah, you have primal, but you're like 1v4, 1v5. It's just, you're not really going to be able to make solo kills in that environment. So I got to give it to Qadsiah. They're so insanely good at oppressing teams, and I mean, they're a terrifying squad to go up against.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, yes, it's difficult to go up against Alcatia, but I still feel like the Ultimates as a whole, they just didn't look comfortable as a team, as individuals, on the roles they've been flexing over to play. Like, it's just been a disconnect. The utility usage is disconnected.
Oh,
like,
the bet they made. There's like,
it is the bet they made.
It goes Sky Twilight, that's our backline. And
the good news is they're not in promotion relegation, so even if they drop out of the playoffs, they have plenty of time to, you know, get their marbles together. A team that has everything together and then some is Alcatia. They've been dominant, and they continue in that fashion here in their first match in the playoffs. So picking our player of the match here, like, we could have given that to anyone. This time it's going to be Labda. Labda is just such a standout player, and so such a deep hero pool as well. Like, Labda can flex over to so many different heroes. Is actually incredible.
I mean, he's going toe-to-toe with some of the best hit scans in the region, and we were pretty surprised by this early on in the year. Like, wow, Labda's coming out of nowhere on hit scan. But at this point, he's made his claim as, like, maybe one of the best, if not the best hit scan in Europe, which is really crazy. Like, hit scan is very rarely a role that we see flex DPS swap over to play hit scan. Like, I know it seems like less crazy, but that is really shocking, and more common to see hit scan players play Tracer and whatnot and look good. But this is a huge performance from a formerly flex player to come out and look like one of the best hit scan, almost out of nowhere in my eyes.
Yeah,
and also, doing it on Cassidy. Gotta say that. Doing it on Cassidy as well. Not only Soldier.